Council cancellation has led to an interesting scene in the town of Trinidad in Henderson County. Let's take a live look tonight outside of Trinidad City Hall, where people have gathered to talk about the town's water in the midst of a state investigation, even bringing their own samples. You see the water in the jars there. The Trinidad City Council's water workshop was abruptly canceled today. The mayor said it was done so at the advice of council, but no clear reason was ever given. And while that meeting was canceled, people are still showing up tonight to talk about their concerns when it comes to water quality. We were even listening a short time ago. It appeared that someone could be seen through that glass door there, and people were saying, come outside and talk to us about the water. We brought along samples. We have a reporter there tonight, and we'll bring you more coming up tonight on the late news after the game.